This is the ESKUTE Wayfarer.
It's my first foray into e-bikes, and really any bike outside of when I was a child or the peloton spin bike. Quite honestly, I couldn't be more excited about this. With an affordable price tag and a pretty compelling spec sheet, is this bike worth the money? Hello everybody, my name is Robert and this is Review Clue. Yes, today we are taking a look at this e-bike from the company ESKUTE, or ESKUTE, depending on how you want to say it. This is their city bike. They do also do a mountain bike version, but for today we're looking at the city bike version. Both are e-bikes as well. What this means is they're electronically assisted. As you pedal, a little motor on the back kicks in, giving you that little bit of an extra push to get you going. I'm going to be upfront about this and say that ESKUTE did send this out to me for free for review, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. But what that isn't going to do is affect the way that I feel about this bike. I'm going to give you my brutal and honest opinions on this bike, particularly when setting it up, using it, because I know these things can be quite difficult. If you've never built a bike before, it's a pretty daunting task. Let's quickly get this thing out of its cardboard and foam prison. This is a two-man or woman job. This bike is 25 kilos. That is heavy for a bike. So I would suggest having someone around like Zoe to help you. If you can't get yourself a Zoe, then anyone will do. Let's get it unboxed, built, and I'll show you some of the key features. The actual build process was not a simple one. Mainly because both me and Zoe have never built a bike before, and we're not particularly DIY apt. It took us just over an hour to build this thing. The instructions, though detailed with a lot of pictures, were very badly translated, leading to some quite interesting reading. We particularly also had some issues removing the bolt from the front axle. It did seem very stiff, so there was a lot of elbow grease required to actually remove this one. Once it was all built though, it was ready to go, and this was my first opportunity to admire its beauty. Coming in at 25 kilos, this is by far a light bike. But what it doesn't do in featherweight lightness, it does do in its design. This thing is stunning. I genuinely think this is one of the best looking bikes I've ever used. While I was out on that first ride, it really did turn heads. These really smooth, crisp lines, and a rather unique design really did lead to, one, a fun ride, and two, one that really did turn heads and get people talking. If that's something that you want from a bike, then I think you'll find it here with the ESKUTE. Though I do believe that this bike is a little bit like Marmite with its design. You will either love it or you will hate it, and it's completely your choice to go with this style of bike. I, though, personally think this is great, and it's definitely something that I like the look of. While we're talking looks, let's quickly tour the bike and I'll show you some of its key features. Obviously on that back wheel we have that 250 watt Bafang motor, and this thing is powerful. When I was using it for that short period of maybe an hour or so, I really did feel it kick in. There are 5 different levels of assist, from all the way from 0 to 5, and each of those will give a little bit more or less assistance. When I did hit that 5 level, I was hardly pedalling at all and hitting speeds of between 30 and 35 kilometers an hour. That is scary fast, especially for a bike like this. We have a Shimano 7-speed gears as well, and we have 2 different ways that we can change those gears. Out of the box, we have the American style of 2 buttons to click between those gear levels, but if you're like me and you're from Europe, they do also give you another one in the box, so you can literally just attach it to the side and reattach the new one, twisting instead of clicking. Each of the gear levels, again, felt very good, and it was nice and easy to change between those gears. Obviously, the higher your gear is, the lower your cadence, but the higher that resistance. This is really good for things like getting up hills quickly. On the front we have the suspension fork, and that takes a lot of the terrain away from you. So while I was moving across from the gravel to the grass, I really didn't feel it too much, and that's really what I like here. That front suspension fork took most of the shock and the impact while changing between terrains. This led to an incredibly smooth ride. We have dual disc brakes for the front and the back. Obviously out of the box, they will need a little bit of adjusting, and we did find this. While I was riding, I was pulling those brakes and it was taking a good few seconds to me to come to a full stop. But that is very normal for a bike. Once you've actually built it, I would highly suggest going and just making sure that you've tightened those brakes correctly to ensure that you've got the safest ride possible. I found the saddle to be fairly comfortable. I'm very much used to sitting in a saddle now because of the Peloton bike, so my partner did find it a little bit rigid. Of course, you can buy different cushions if you need to, but for me, I found that seat was fairly comfortable and was enough on its own. We also have an LED screen indicator which gives you some of the key information about the bike. For example, the speed in kilometers an hour, your pedal assist mode, and your battery. Unfortunately, as of the time of writing, as soon as I plug in the battery to get it to full power, put it onto the bike and turn on this display, it shows a low voltage indicator. This basically means that this thing, it doesn't really understand the battery and doesn't know how much battery life we have left. I can still use the bike fine and I can use it on all of its pedal assist modes. It's literally just this screen that just doesn't seem to be able to understand the battery, understand how much juice is left in it. A very strange one, and it's something that I brought up with ESKUTE, and hopefully we can come to a conclusion as to why this is happening. Of course, this may not be a deal breaker, but it is always nice to know just how much battery you have left. It's a bike though, so actually how does it ride? Because I suppose that's the most important part of this review. And unfortunately, here is where things got a little bit difficult for me. We went out with this bike for maybe an hour and a half, and I was genuinely really enjoying it. I was moving between two sides of terrain, both footpaths, grass, and also a little bit of gravel, and I was genuinely having a lot of fun with it. This thing felt smooth and powerful for that very short period of time, but while riding home, I began to feel my leg, particularly my left leg, sort of arcing in a little bit towards the bike, almost like the pedal wasn't quite straight. So obviously we decided to call it a day and rode home, but when I got it home, I saw this. Yeah, it's really strange. To me, it almost looks like the pedal just shredded the inside of the crank completely to the point that we could not get this pedal back on again because there just wasn't any threads to actually attach to. And this is a big problem. In just such a short period of time for that to happen, it should not happen. And actually, just was quite dangerous. When I reached out to ESKUTE, they were fairly responsive on their social media platforms, but it did take a long time for me to actually get the replacement parts. So originally we went through a couple of troubleshooting steps, and I think it took almost a week before ESKUTE finally said, okay, fine, we'll send you out these parts. And that was after the point that I did mention that I was reviewing this thing for them. Take that as you will. It might be that they are just a little slower responding and getting these parts out to people, but it did seem a little bit suspicious to me that I was able to say, hey, I'm reviewing this thing, and all of a sudden they were able to find these replacement parts. I did also take this bike to my local bike shop to see if they could fix it, but unfortunately the crank and the pedal are just something that they'd never seen before. It was a very unique design just for the ESKUTE bike. What I hope is the case is that we can get replacement parts from places like eBay or a local bike shop, but if it isn't the case and these parts are exclusive to ESKUTE bikes, this could lead to be a big problem in the future. So obviously right now I can't give you a full review on this bike because I can't ride the thing. I am awaiting these replacement parts to come in, and I'm going to take it down to my local bike shop and get them to fit it for me just so that we can rule out any kind of human error there. So I'm hoping this will come in the next week, and if you're excited to see that video and just understand a little bit more about the bike and how it rides, then don't forget to get subscribed down below. Leave a comment as well what you think about this bike. Do you think it looks stylish? Obviously, let's try to avoid the whole pedal and crank thing. What do you think of it? Do you think it looks cool? Do you like the idea of it? And what about that price point? Anyway guys, my name's been Robert, this has been Review Clue, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.
If you made it this far, why not watch more Review Clue content by clicking one of the two videos on your screen right now. Go on, you know you want to. It's a really good video, the one on the left, but so is the one on the right. Which one are you going to choose? Let me know.